Yesterday we learned about the Torah and the commandments and Mount Sinai. We said that in Mount Sinai was revealed very simple things: don't kill, don't steal, but nevertheless it was with a tremendous upheaval. There was thunders and lightnings, and the earth shook. What was so earth-shaking about these simple things? These simple commandments, prohibitions, number one. Number two, it says that the Jewish people, to receive the Torah, so they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. They proceeded, let us do, and then they said, we'll understand. It was, let us do first, and then we'll understand. And God said, wow, where did they hear this amazing secret from? What's the big secret? That they'll do first and then they'll understand later. It could be the other way around. What's so amazing, that secret that you should do first and then understand later? I'm adjusting this camera because the other one doesn't work for some reason.
It's very zoomed in, Rabbi.
There we go. Oh, that's better. Okay. And the other one didn't work. I don't know why. It was working fine, and suddenly it decided to stop. Okay. Then, so what's the thing? What's so important about doing more than understanding? I mean, it comes down to this: that there's the commandments and there's the Torah, and the Torah itself is God's wisdom. All the commandments come from the Torah. So what are we saying? That to do the commandments is more important than the Torah? What does that mean? So let's here we go. Being in Bereshis Shavil Torah, that the whole world was created for the sake of the Torah. That's the idea. But then there's also what's called the 248 limbs of God, Avery Amelech, the 248 limbs of the king. The 248 limbs of the king, and 8 Lakol Chayfetz, that there's a time for every desire. In other words, the commandments are under the limitations of time and place, the commandments. So how can it be that the commandments are in any way superior to the Torah? The Torah is eternal. The Torah is infinite. You can learn the Torah at any time. The Torah is called Adam. Like we said, it's Aleph is the oneness of God, and Dam is the living force that enlivens the whole world. Dam, that's what the Torah is. Anyone, to the degree that anyone who learns the Torah, it's as though he's done the commandment. If it's impossible to do the commandment, for instance, the sacrifices, if you learn about the sacrifices, it's as though you're doing them. And so all desires in the world, even spiritual desires, are not worth the Torah. The Torah is the most important. So if so, how can it be that because the Jewish people said first, we will do, and then we'll understand, why was that such a praiseworthy thing? Why was it such a praiseworthy thing? The main thing is the Torah. Or in simple language, what's more important, spiritual or physical? Well, the spiritual is the source of the physical. The spiritual, God, comes from everything comes from God. God is spiritual, right? So God is more important than the world. Like, God is more important, isn't he, than the physical world? The Torah is the inner will and wisdom of God, especially the wisdom of God. And the Torah and the commandments, that's just the vessels for this wisdom. So isn't the Torah higher? Torah is the life force. Huh? It's like a person can change. You can do a heart transplant. You can do maybe someday even brain transplant. Who knows? I mean, after all, these things are just vessels. But you can't have a soul transplant. If you have a soul transplant, that is a different person. The same thing with God. God is the soul inside of all the Torah and the commandments, inside of all the commandments, and the Torah is united with God. So the Torah is the main thing, right? That's the thing. You can change a person's arm. You can give an artificial arm, artificial eye, artificial heart, lungs, everything. They haven't figured out a way to make an artificial brain, but these things are just vessels. The person inside of it, that's the consciousness, the intellect, that's the main thing. The same thing with the Torah. The Torah is like God's consciousness, God's wisdom. And the commandments are just what's called the limbs, just the vessels. So the commandments are important, but they're not as important as the Torah, right? We'll see. Now we're going to understand really what the whole idea of giving the Torah is and what the whole idea of Jewish people are. In a tachli the Torah, the whole purpose of the Torah and the commandments, Moshiach NOW is to draw down the revelation of God's will below, who it is, shekatuv, what the Torah says, v'tziveinu Hashem lasot et kol hachukim, that God commanded us to do all of these commandments, liyirah et Hashem, to fear God. Why is fear such a good thing? Hine kasiv, it is written, yiru et Hashem kadoshav, fear God, your holy ones. Who are these holy ones, sir? Who are these holy ones that we have to fear? Who are the holy ones that they have to fear God? And only the holy people have to fear God? Who are the holy ones? Halokativ yiru me Hashem kol haaretz, says the whole world should fear God. All right, so first of all, why is fear a good thing? The whole purpose of the Torah and the commandments is just to fear God. That's pretty, how do you say, oppressive, huh? Pretty oppressive. Who needs it? All these laws, all these restrictions. Why? That's the whole purpose of the Torah. So, it's not a very good selling point, right? To be afraid. And so we're going to see that fear, this type of fear that you're speaking about, is the most healthy thing that can possibly be. You'll see. Ache'inyan is like this, because you can know it's known what's written in another place. Al pasuk, ki lo machshavotay machshavotechem. My thoughts, says God, my thoughts are not like your thoughts. Shalifanav, that before God, call mashalamayla, that everything which is above, excuse me, nikra yesh legabi shalamata mimenu, that by God, whatever is higher and more spiritual is more real than that which is low. Like it says, yesh. Okay, so the way we look at the world, how do we look at the world? We look at the world that the world exists, and the spiritual worlds, could be they also exist. There's these parapsychology and things like that, experiences that people have after death. So maybe it could be that there's, spiritual worlds also, right? But the higher you get into the spiritual worlds, the less things are real. The less are real. Good. What about angels? Angels exist. Isaiah saw them. Who knows what it is? Maybe it's a metaphor. Maybe angels, the biblical things. What about God? That's really far out. By us, what's more physical is more real, right? I have my house. I have my car. What about my soul? I have a soul. Is my soul real? I guess it is, to think about it. But most people don't think about it. They don't think about their soul. That's why the religions are so popular, because people, they get close to death, they start to think, well, what's going to be with me after I die? And they get worried. And then pop in all the religions and say, we'll comfort you, don't worry about it, believe in us, you're going to go. Because people don't usually think about spiritual things. They think what's more physical is more real. And what's more spiritual is less and less and less real. That's from our point of view. But from God's point of view is not. Here, from below to above, call masha lamata, that which is below, more physical, who musag is understandable, venira, the ayin, and we can see the ayin called basar, everyone. That's called yesh. In other words, what is reality? Yesh means reality. What is real? What is real? Yesh means existence. What really exists? What really exists? What do you mean, what really exists? You're asking me a question, what really exists? Here I have a computer in front of me. If a computer didn't exist, who are you talking to? You're talking to me. You're talking to a body. The world exists. What about the spiritual world? Who says there even is such a thing? By us, what's physical is yesh, is real, regarding what's above it. And that's called ayin. But by God, it's exactly the opposite. By God, the more spiritual thing is, the more it's closer to the truth. It's closer to what the truth is. What's above? Okay, so then we have two ways of looking at the world, from God's point of view and from our point of view. From our point of view, what's above, it's not understood and it's not seen, it doesn't really exist, or maybe it exists. This is the whole idea of drawing down God's will below. To be that from below to above should be equal like it is from above to below. In other words, why is God say that what's above the spiritual worlds are more real? Because God sees the whole picture. God creates the whole business. God knows that the upper worlds are more real than this physical world. But we don't see the whole picture. All we see and feel is this world. That's all we have, nothing to compare it to. If we would see a little bit how real the spiritual worlds are, in that they have truth. In the spiritual worlds, there's no lies, there's no deception, there's no mistakes, there's no frustration, there's no addictions, there's no hatred, there's no misconceptions and egotism. Those things don't exist in the upper worlds because the upper worlds is truth. You feel that there's a creator, and the upper worlds are just feeling gratitude that they're being created. But this world, we don't feel the creator at all. If we felt the creator in this world, we would know how tremendously important we are in his eyes. In his eyes. So it says, therefore, that's the whole idea of the Torah, is to put in this world the ability to see things from God's point of view. Just like from above to below, everything is negated in front of God. Everything is totally dependent on God's miraculous creative power. Like it says, to you, God is greatness. The kameh in front of God, everything is like nothing. We explained it before. Like nothing means that really everything is something like what we think is nothing, but it's infinitely more nothing than what we could possibly imagine. But God creates the whole entire business, everything, from absolute nothingness. What does that mean, absolute nothingness? We have no idea. Absolute nothingness is unconscious. Who knows what it is? And God is creating everything, so the upper worlds feel this, and they feel gratitude to the God that is creating them. And we don't feel anything. But in the future, that's how it is now. But in the future, or by means of the Torah and the commandments doing their job, there'll be revelation below, from above, from below to above, just like it is from above to below. The Ra'u called Basar, and all flesh will see together. It says, Uboba Maros Surim, and the people will run into the clefts of the rocks, into the tunnels under the ground, from the fear of God. To be batlalav, negated to God. And somebody is the same thing. The difference between Yirum Me Hashem Kol Oretz, fear from God, the whole world, Yira Tato, the lower fear, Kamosha Nid Malano, like it seems to us that things are really real. Although that's what it means, fear of God, the whole world. But that what it says, Yiru et Hashem, namely fear of God, the holy ones, Sheyeh Bechinas et Hashem, Tafel Hashem, Hainu Bittul Mamish, that will be totally surrendered to God. Totally surrendered. Kamosha Lamaila Hayesh, Ulamata Kalo Hashiv, Zeu Ki Ein Machsul L'Riyav. There's nothing that's lacking to those who fear him. Sheyeh Bechinas Ainu Bittul. Oh, maybe I can give you an example what this is. The fear, how fear is a really good thing. We talked about it before. I'm just making this up. But let's say, for instance, driving a car, right? You get these young teenage kids, and they say they used to have the sign on the back of cars with no fear, right? So a young kid sees this. He's 13, 14 years old, and he's no fear. So he's get into a car and drive. He steals a car. It happens. You steal a car, and they saw their father drives a car, the people drive a car, but they don't know how to drive, and they don't know the laws. They don't know. Nobody ever told them you have to drive on this side of the street, that side of the street. It just happens that whenever they were in a car, they happen to drive on one side of the street. They never noticed. So he's got no fear, right? He drives the car. He just pushes down, goes as fast as he can, right? That doesn't even care where the brakes are. Doesn't care which side of the street you drive on. Doesn't care if there's people over there. If he hits anything. So he's got no fear, right? He fulfilled what that slogan that's written on the whatever is on they put people's stickers on their cars. No fear, no fear. So that's very good. He has no fear. That's a real man, right? He's brave. He's this, but that's a fool. Why? Because any normal person should have a healthy fear and an awe for life, for life. But a criminal can say, "I've got no. What are you talking about? No fear. I don't fear the police, and I don't fear ownership. I don't fear the owner. I'm taking people's money. I'm taking people's cars. I'll drive on whatever side of the street I want to. No fear." Well, it certainly is an option in the world. You certainly can't do that. There's no doubt about it. God gave us the ability to choose whatever we want to. But on the other hand, a person that doesn't have any natural fear means he has no boundaries in life. No, what's the word I was trying to say? No, what was the word I wanted to say? Okay, no boundaries. I'll think of the word. There's nothing that contains him. And so as a result, it's like the human body. If you decide, why do I have this skin all over me? It's just making me so small. I'll just rip off all the skin and just be free. But just come out. Well, that's very bad, right? You should be afraid of doing a thing like that because that's called a healthy fear. Healthy fear. So the same thing is with God. If you think that you're God and you think that you're above everyone else, and everybody has that feeling, that's the way God created us. He created us in his image. We feel like God. But if we want to take this in the wrong direction, it means we don't have any fear of anything. And that's very dangerous. That's very destructive. That essentially is death. No framework. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. This type of fear where you feel totally gratitude to God that you're being created. The more and more you feel life is precious, the creator of life is even more precious, and you're afraid of losing it. Huh? You're afraid of losing it. A person that's a fool, these people that they win the lottery, they get $50 million. No fear, I just give. Everybody hears about it. Sure, of course, take 1,000, take 10,000, take 15,000. All of a sudden, they have all these friends that are their wife kills them and all sorts of crazy things, so they want the money because they've got no limits, no boundaries, no framework. Fear is a good thing. It keeps things within a framework. And who made the framework? God did. But we have the choice. We can break it up, open this framework. What is the thing that keeps us in the frame? Fear. A good, healthy fear that we value something that's more real than we are. That's called the upper fear. This is drawn down by means of learning the Torah. By means of them, and this it says, in Yira, it says if there's no wisdom, there's no fear. Like we're going to learn later on. That's the whole thing we got on Mount Sinai. That's the second level of fearing God, the holy ones. This high level of fear, Nimshach is drawn down by means of Asher Karishanu b'mitzvotav. It's done by means of the Torah and the commandments. Kedoshav. Only by means of the Torah can we feel this true reality. Yirah et Hashem, fearing God himself. This level of fear, this healthy level of fear and appreciation of the Creator. 1 minute. There we go. This upper level of fear of God, which was in Mount Sinai. Here we go. Oh. I'll get to the notes. Yeah. This revelation of fear was, and the will of God, this was revealed when? At Mount Sinai. When God gave the Torah. Al Har Sinai. The Kolot of Barakim, that's why there was the thunders and the lightnings on every word that God spoke. The souls of the Jews jumped out of their bodies. Ad Sha'omer, that they said, Shehifsika zuhuma. Instead, do zumatam, that there stopped the death. When the Torah was given, that fixed up the sin of Adam. What was the sin of Adam? Egotism. The sin of Adam was that he thought about himself. That's the sin of Adam. He didn't have this upper fear. Suddenly he stopped being aware of the greatness and the awesomeness of his creator. And he started thinking about himself. And as soon as he thought that, that brought death into the world. He ate from the tree, he manifested it. Right? If you thought about it, it wasn't so bad. That was a natural thing. God wanted the people to think, to have thoughts pop into your mind so that you could defy them. But Adam did not defy it. Adam took that thought, that feeling of his own ego, and he used it. As soon as he did, God said, oh, you want to be the creator? Okay, let's see you create yourself. Let's see you live forever. If you wouldn't have eaten from that tree, Adam, if he would have connected himself to the creator, as he would have lived infinitely. He would have lived forever. Adam would be all humans. There wouldn't be death in the world. What would the world be? It would be a lot different than now. But there wouldn't be all this terrible selfishness and egotism. The world would be a good, a happy place, like an orchestra, when every player plays exactly the part that he's supposed to. Then it's beautiful. Everyone feels fulfilled. Everyone feels fulfilled. When people do exactly what they're supposed to, then there's beauty and there's harmony in the world. The world is good. Says, but Adam opted out for egotism. And from that egotism that Adam had, is it came all the religions in the world. Everybody's thinking about themselves, and I want to go to heaven, and I'm cursed, and I'm blessed, and I, a big capital I. Or there comes the people who are what they call the atheists. The atheists, they think about, what do they think about themselves? I call it, that there's no such thing as an atheist. There's I-theists, I with a capital I. They believe in themselves. They believe that they themselves are God. However it is, people became confused and started thinking about themselves. When God gave the Torah, he revealed himself. Suddenly everybody realized, wow, I'm a creation. I'm so lucky. God is creating me. This is amazing. They stopped their death in the world. It says, like it says that the letters were carved out, charut, on the tablets. They were charut, the letters of the 10 Commandments were carved out. Al tikre charut. Don't say that they were just carved out. Elo cherut, same letters, just a different pronunciation. Cherut. Don't say that the letters were carved out, but it was free. They came free. They were free from the angel of death. The shibud al chet, the egel, the shibud, and I'm sorry, al movet v'shibud. They were free from death and from any, they say, servitude to the world, ad chet egel, until the sin of the golden calf. Then egotism came back. Okay. And therefore, therefore we have to serve God little by little. We couldn't take it was too much of a revelation back then. Like it says, mad agorshen. Okay, so here we go. Who is this angel of death, and who is the serpent, and who was the golden calf, and all these? It's basically all the same thing. It's our false egotism, using our egotism in the wrong direction, returning it back to ourselves. Viktor Frankl says, the Professor Viktor Frankl, like I told you, I've read a lot of his books. He says a very good thing over there. That's very good. He said he was invited to speak at the University of Melbourne or something, and they gave him, as a memento for his speech, they gave him a boomerang, right? Australia is known for its boomerangs. What's a boomerang? Boomerang is the thing you throw it and it comes back. So Viktor Frankl was teaching these people that the purpose of life is to find meaning. Everyone wants meaning, and meaning is available, and everyone can find meaning. People want meaning, and meaning can only be found in every little situation that there is in the world. Everything that you meet, everyone you see, you can either appreciate it, or you can improve it, or you can change your attitude. It's a beautiful method, which my answer is the answer to all of the crazy, selfish woke programs and this and idiocy. that's caused by Freud and all these other maniacs, that they, how do you say, minimize what a man is. They took the humanness out of man. Anyway, so he said, Viktor Frankl says that a person can find meaning by going out of himself, giving to others, doing something in the world, appreciating something outside of himself, appreciating something in the world. Right? He said, if you don't go outside of yourself, but you don't go outside of yourself, he said, then it's like a boomerang. He said, it's very good, that's a boomerang. He says, when does a boomerang come back to you? Only like the hunters that hunt with a boomerang, so they throw it at an animal and it's supposed to like stun the animal. And then they run back. It says, but if it doesn't hit the mark, then it comes back to you. So it's the same thing with life. If life is coming back to you, if you're thinking about what you're going to receive, then it's a sign that you missed the mark, that you haven't got anything in the world as responsibility, something to do, something to appreciate. You're not going outside of yourself. If you're thinking about yourself all the time, then you're missing the goal. You're missing the whole life. Then life becomes like a boomerang, and that's not what it's supposed to be. Says the Rebbe, that's the whole point. At Mount Sinai, they started thinking about themselves. I'm sorry. And when Adam ate from the tree, he thought about himself. When they worshiped the golden calf, they thought about themselves. But when there was at Mount Sinai, they had at least a few minutes, a few days where they did not think about themselves at all. And the thoughts that they did have that came to themselves, selfish thoughts, they pushed them away. Right? They still were human beings. They just ignored it. There's a saying that say that a crazy person, a person that's not normal, he does what a normal person thinks. And a normal person gets a little idea through his mind, that somebody cuts you off, I'll kill him. That's stupid. Right? A crazy person thinks, oh, there's an idea. If it popped up in my mind, then that is the will of the Lord, because I'm the Lord. That's why God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. B'shat Matan Torah, the time of the giving of the Torah, God revealed himself. He revealed this upper fear. He revealed what true value is. He revealed that it's possible to live life and be really productive, to give, to create, to invest, to donate, to improve the world. That's what God gave when he gave the Torah, that people had the option to really think about something more real than themselves. That's called upper fear. Hagam, even though that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they also did the whole Torah. Like it says by Abraham that he did my commandments, Shenikra Mishmar Mitzvotai, that God gave the commandments. What does it mean? They're called Mishmarti. They're called the things that I have guarded. And they weren't really given yet. They were still guarded and kept by God. They weren't really given in the world. Or it's Begilei Rav Atzum Kabamatan Torah. True, Abraham knew all the commandments, but he knew them how they were spiritually. God did not yet give them into the world. He did not make them available. I was thinking of the word contribute. I don't know why sometimes I forget words. God did not yet make his reality available to all mankind, only when God gave the Torah. So this is a very important thing that the Rebbe wants to get us through our minds, is that it's not separate things. There's the world and there's us and there's Torah and there's heaven and there's God. It's all one unity. There's nothing except for God, but there's different levels and revelations of God. God creates this world and he creates it from absolutely nothing. But that's a very low level of revelation of God. But it's a very high level of God's will. God really wants the world to be here. And when God gave the Torah, so the creator and the reason for the creation was revealed in the creation. That's what happened, this tremendous revelation of godliness at Mount Sinai. And so the whole purpose of giving the Torah was to reveal God in the world. That's why God didn't just give a book to Moses and make a big successful religion like all the others. There's billions of people that worship. Some person comes and says, I have this dispensation. He does a couple of tricks, right? He enlivens a person, or he comes back from the dead or something. That's it. I'm the Lord. That's not, those things don't qualify a person to be the Moshiach or to be the beginner of the truth. He knows how to do spiritual things. There's no, and that doesn't qualify a person to be God. When God gave the Torah, he revealed himself. And he revealed that what does God do when he reveals himself? He gives the Torah. The Torah is his will. The Torah is his wisdom. But God wants it to be in the world. That's the whole point. In the commandments where for instance, don't kill. There was drawn down life, Gile Ratzono, God's will, very, very low. Even to people that want to murder. So God is speaking to potential murderers. That's who he's giving the Torah, the lowest of the low. That's lower than mosquitoes or scorpions or whatever. Scorpions do what they're supposed to do. But human beings are not supposed to kill. They're not supposed to murder. And God has to tell them that because God put inside of each one of us the desire, yes, to be murderers, yes, to be egotists, yes, to be this. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people enjoy murder, some people enjoy stealing, some people enjoy licentiousness, some people enjoy, right? Whatever it is, God created it with these faults, if you want to call it, as challenges, as opportunities that when we defy these, then it becomes interesting, like a sports match, right? A sports match, only when there's two teams is it interesting. If not, nobody, just bring one team out there and they can score goals all day, right? What's the big thing, right? How many goals are scored how many baskets are scored in a basketball game? What is it, 150? Who knows how many they're scored in a basketball game? They have only one team out there. You'll score 1,000. That's more interesting, right? Says, of course, that's ridiculous. It's not interesting at all, right? All the tennis matches and boxing matches have one person. No one would go. Would see it. It's not interesting. But there's something about victory and something about defiance that arouses the essence of the soul. And that's why God created the world. This arouses the essence of our soul, and it arouses a new revelation of God that's never been before. So to speak, before the world was created, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no time. There was no being. There was no anything. There was just God. And God doesn't exist in any way. He creates existence. God is not limited. He's not within a framework. But the commandment, so to speak, that is God's essence will. That's limiting God. There he is. No, that's the whole point. The commandments seem to be limited. But the fact of the matter is it's God's essence will. When God reveals his essence, it's not necessarily that everything just goes away, right? Just all the lights blow out. The world is exactly the way it is, but you feel that it's the essence of God inside. That's the idea of thou don't kill. It says, Shofech dam adam b'adam yishofech. God said this to Noah. God said, if you pour the blood of man, Shofech dam adam, says if you spill the blood of man, but adam yishofech, in the man you spill blood. Why too many? So some say this is a prohibition for suicide. It's forbidden to commit suicide. But nevertheless, it says two times Adam. Shofech dam Adam, but Adam yishofech. It says two times the word Adam. Just to add to Noah. Right after God said, right before. Next sentence is, because God created man in his image. God created everything double. Bad is a mirror of good. Is what's called Adam Bilial. That's what's called the how do you say, the wild man. Hu Yetzer Hora. This is the evil impulse. Neged, this opposes the man of holiness. So everyone has it. Some call it the devil, right? The devil. So the devil is a creation of God, and the devil does its job good. We're supposed to also do our job good. Our job is to oppose the devil. And Adam and God told Noah that when you're born, it says that sin. No, I'm sorry. That you can rule over sin. He said. He said it also to Cain. But you're able to rule over sin. That's the purpose of man in the world. Like I said, that's this sports match, if you want to call it, to be victorious over ourselves. The Hine Yisrael, the Jewish people, they rose up in God's thought. Therefore, Haim Gormim, when they make a sin, whether it's a sin in deed, speech, or thought, they spill the blood of this man of holiness into the man of, how do you say, man of unholiness, klippa. That's why it says, Shofech dam ha'adam be'adam. When I do a sin, then that pours down, takes blood out of the side of holiness and puts it into the side of unholiness. That's what happened with the golden calf. As soon as the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf, then that added power to death and to evil, the selfishness, the destruction. Cain, so is with all the other sins, lotin af. Don't commit sexual sins. Shefa you shouldn't give extra unnecessary life to powers of evil, selfishness, of death. Also, don't steal. This is by means of shmira, v'zihirut, mibetzios, upenios. This means keeping away from any mitzvios, from being, false and lying. That's also stealing. Stealing. And all these have very fine meanings. But the point of it is we're not talking about going to heaven or going to hell. We're talking about this physical world. This physical world, when a person, especially a Jew, when he does good, is that increases good and godliness and health in this world. When a person does bad, so it increases bad and evil and destruction in the world. Like we see in America, when there's one person commits one of these, what is it called? These mass murders. So all of a sudden there's an outbreak of mass murders. Right? They advertise it on the very careful to advertise it on the paper and in the news, and what type of person this is, and you have to be afraid. And then other people decide to do the same thing. And the same thing is God forbid, with suicides. They advertise people commit suicides. All of a sudden there's a rash of suicides. Right? Okay, I don't know if you can check this out if it's really so what I'm saying, but what the Rebbe is so what he's saying is really so. When one Jew does a sin, that increases the probability that other Jews and other people will also do the same thing, until finally there's no such thing as a sin. You just do whatever you want to. There's no God, there's no fear, no. Cain lo tignob, also stealing, means that you write, when God gave the Torah, hadibur ba'atzmo, the word itself that God spoke, gozer v'omer, and said, don't, no tirtzach. Lashon atid. God, there's one thing, it's a commandment, but there's also a promise. Lo tirtzach means you will not kill. Shelo tiyeh b'china zeh nira le'olam. There won't be any more murder in the world. Why? So in Hebrew, future tense is the same, written in the same way as a command. So the 10 commandments are the 10 commandments, right? 10 commandments. But they're called the Asaras HaDibrot. They're called the 10 utterances. Utterances. Yeah, the where it really sticks out is the first of the 10. I am God, your God, that took you out of Egypt. There's no commandment there. It's a future promise that I will take you out of Egypt again. Just like I took you out of Egypt by Moses, I'm going to take you out also again by Moshiach. By Moshiach. But a different type of Egypt you're going to be going out of. Nevertheless, all the 10 commandments, the prohibitions that are there, right? And I'm sorry, all the 10 commandments, the prohibitions and the positive commandments, right? Honor your mother and father, keep the Shabbat, right? The positive commandments, all of those commandments are also promises. And also the negative commandments. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit. It's a promises that this is the way it's going to be. Lashon atid. God is promising you that you will not even desire to kill. In the future, atzivoy should atzivoy. Oh, I'm sorry. Ki ha'atid v'atzivoy, because future tense and positive, how do you say, command tense is a word for it, I forgot. Both of them, mishamshim b'lashon echad, they're the same. In Hebrew, it's the same spelling. But after the sin, that God has to have our work, if we would have done what God wanted to, if we wouldn't have sinned with the golden calf, then all of the commandments of the Torah would have transformed to be promises. You will not kill, you will not steal, you will not. But because we did sin, so now the only way we can, and why? Because of the power of the Torah. Now, since we did sin with the golden calf, so we've been working on this for the last 3,300 years. And how do we get rid of it? By saying words of Torah. By means of this, we draw down little by little God's upper will, like it says, "Asim devarai beficha," and will put my words into your mouth. And by means of this, yitamu chatei ma'aretz, there won't be any more evil in the world. And this, I think, we're going to have to complete tomorrow. Right? Yes, we're going to complete this tomorrow. Where do we get up to? Here. Oh, here, the Torah, here. But this we'll do. Okay, a little bit more. Hine, behold, the Torah, the written Torah, who Eitz Chaim, is called the tree of life to those who hold on to it. And the oral Torah, this is called in the Zohar, the tree of good and evil. Shabo mafridim, that in the by means of the oral Torah, the Talmud and the Mishnah, we separate between good and bad. Kamal derech much like, for instance, when a person learns the laws of trephos, of what makes an animal not kosher or not. Elu kasheros, and what is yes kosher. Right? An animal that has a hole in the lung, so it's not kosher. Who would dream of a thing like that? It says God did that. By means of this, we refine the world. Between what's impure and what is pure. But tafridu kol polei oven, and then all evil will be separated, just like wax melts in front of fire, until the days of the Mashiach. In the days of the Mashiach, it says, "Sheyavor ruach hatumah min haaretz," there won't be any more impurity in the world. And it says, "Bayomahu," in that day, Hashem echad u'shmo echad. Everyone will see the oneness of God. Everyone will see how good they really are, how good the world is, how good God is, how close He is. Then God's oneness will be in the world. The world will be one. That's the mitzvah's riyah. This happened every year, 3 times a year, and the Jewish people would go up to the Holy Temple. They would go up, every male would come up the same way that they went to see godliness. They were seen by God. It was parish. What does it mean? Just like from above to below, everything is like nothing. So it'll also be from below to above. That's what it was in the Holy Temple. In simple language, everyone went to the Holy Temple and they felt that they're being created, that there's a creator that loves them and they're being created by love, and that the Torah is God's will and wisdom. He's giving you a chance to return this love to Him. And that causes fear. What type of a fear? A very healthy fear. Finally, I know what's the right side of the road to drive on, and what's the proper way to act when you drive, and what's the speed limit, etc. So you know what to do. But that's called a healthy fear. That's what it says, that in the future, ayin ba'ayin yiru. That's what it means. We will see God eye to eye. What does it mean, eye to eye? That the same eye from below that we see the world will be mekuvan, will be exactly fitting to the way that God sees from above. Like it says, Tishma b'kol, in order to do what is straight in the eyes of God. But that's what's going to be, and that's what's supposed to be, and that's what really is if we would just open up our eyes. But now, we haven't got any holy temple, and we're not able to go and bow down to God. Why? Because of our sins. Our sins, they separate between us and God. Again, the world is good. Humans are good. God is infinitely close and good. But when we do sins, we cover this over. We cover over the truth. Nothing can take away the essential goodness of man. Nothing can take away those people that say there's original sin. Everybody's going to say everybody's a sinner. Only this somebody can get. This is a tremendous, evil, depressing, oppressing lie. Everyone is essentially good. Everyone is blessed. Everyone is loved by God. But when you do a sin and go against God, that covers over this. It covers over. It's like a person having $1 million in the bank and forgetting his name. Right? I don't remember where did I put my wallet with all my identification? I don't know. Right? So he goes around in the garbage cans and eats. But meanwhile, right, and he gets sick from the garbage can. Meanwhile, he's a millionaire. He's got money in the bank. He doesn't know it. Same thing with us. We're millionaires. God loves us. But we forgot our identity. That's what sins do. Sins make us think that I'm God. Sins, they divide between us and God. Sha'avon osehevdal, that sins make a separation, a hefresh, and a division, bein rias ayin shelachem, between how we see God, from how God sees us. In other words, what's the real picture? The real picture is how God sees us, but we don't see things that way. In the future, we'll see eye to eye. Our eye will see like God says. But when we do sins nowadays, as God, so to speak, goes away, and now it dries up. That was the first temple and the second temple. Is Nami, I'm sorry, even in the first temple, that's Rishon, that's Reshit, that's the first utterance of God in the Ten Commandments. That's one of God's. Nevertheless, when the Jewish people sinned, Yachriv, it dried up. Yistalik bechinas hamshachas gilui elokus, God was not revealed there. And how much more so, Shiyabesh, it dried up in the second temple. When the Jewish people sinned, so they separated between God and the world. But Davar Talui, the whole thing depends on tshuva. How do we fix it up? Very simple. Returning to God. Tshuva means to return. Remove the bad things. Stop doing bad. Stop saying bad. Stop thinking bad. And confess to God on your own. Say, God, listen, I did bad things. I admit it. I'll tell you what I did. I did this. I did that. And I did it. And help me to stop. And by means of doing tshuva and maisim tovim, by means of this, Yidgala will be revealed this light again, that it's good. First of all, you have to be a little bit bitter to know that all of this confusion in the world comes from us. Or more exactly, all the confusion in the world comes from me. And I am the whole fault of this whole business. It's not the other people, it's not the government, and it's not the... That's what happened when Adam ate from the tree. He started blaming everybody. Right? God said to him, did you eat from the tree? How do you know you're naked? He said, the woman that you gave me, she... So God went to the Chava, Eve. Did you eat from the tree? He said, listen, the snake, you created the snake. Everyone's blaming everybody else. First of all, you have to start blaming yourself. And you have to be bitter. And you have to know that, okay, I did bad. Now I feel I accept responsibility. I'm guilty. I did wrong things. That's it. Now I'm going to start doing good. Forget about this bitterness and this evil and then how bad I am, how I wrecked the whole thing up good. By dwelling on this, it's just continuing the damage. Now let's start to do good. And that's what the Torah was given for. And that's what we're going to talk about, God willing, I hope, tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see what we do tomorrow. Okay, now, let's do the Dvar Malchut.